That recording announcement is so loud. All right. It is September 18th, 2024. We are reviewing the updates to this KEP, mostly the Go interface and the API updates for the pull records. All right. So I left comments. Do you want to share your screen, Standa? And
sure. Let's see.
Wayland has been behaving weirdly today, which is also why I wasn't so well prepared today. But let's give it a try. Okay, I can see me and I can see you on my screen. So hopefully the screen is shared.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, let's just open this one. All right. So
shall I? Oh yeah. You mentioned that you left comments, right? So I can just scroll back to the bottom. Let's see. All right. Let's take it from
maybe start with the Go interface is a good place to start.
That would be this one. Yeah. Right. Shall I
open the well, let's go straight to it. So we can see
Yeah.
There we go.
So every time so the kubelet will call record pull intent, and then we expect, except in cases of crashes, like every call to record pull intent will be matched to a call either to succeeded or failed. So we'll call record pull intent, and then we'll probably in like a defer make sure that we either call the succeeded or failed. If that's how we're expecting it to be used, then we should definitely document that expectation. Like this will be paired with either a success or a failure call, except in cases of crashes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we would
probably make it dependent of whatever call there is to. I think it's the ensure image or something like that, right?
Okay.
We would tie it to its return.
Yeah.
The ref counting feels like it should stay internal to the implementation. I'm not sure how the caller would use that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
how to kind of explain the intent, like that the structure behind the interface should always have this, because we
need that, right?
I mean, if we document that it's safe to call concurrently on the same image, I think at the interface level, like that's enough. Internally, that means we have to do some kind of ref counting or something like that. But for the interface documentation saying this is safe to call concurrently on the same image.
Right. Yeah, I was just wondering, like whoever's implementing the interface should know that they should be ref counting. So because we need to document it at least.
You could leave a comment above, like implementation notes, like this will require ref counts. When we record success, this will require writing the pulled record before we delete the pulling record. Just so like an implementation note section might be useful.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I actually included this in the Mermaid graph.
A little bit at least, I think. Yeah.
All right, and you had a comment, Peter. The action we take. Yeah, so that would be like a good implementation notes comment.
Yeah.
So when we record image pull success, we pass in information about the credentials that were used, which might be anonymous, might be node wide, might be the pull secret that was used. Does that make sense? I think. when we are asking whether we should verify credentials, are we going to ask if we should verify credentials when we're polling anonymously? Yeah, I guess we will. Yeah, whatever the credentials that we have available for the poll, whether it's anonymous or node-wide or poll secrets, we will ask. In the docs of the image pool credentials, it says only one of these must be set. I think that makes sense when we're recording success for a poll. Like we attempted a poll with this credential and it succeeded. So that there it makes sense that only one of them is set. When we are asking if we should re-verify, are we expecting to call should re-verify a bunch of times? Like call it anonymously, call it with node-wide credentials, call it with each individual poll secret? If so,
I think if we're comparing the hash of the struct itself, then it would need to be a union struct, because the like each individual credential or anonymous or whatever, like we would be able to do a direct comparison rather than like unhashing that string. And then so I guess if we're storing the hash of the object, then we would need to have it be individual. But if we're storing the object, maybe wouldn't.
go up to the image poll credentials information.
With me.
Wherever that struct was.
I
thought it was at the top of it. Yeah. All right. So
Uh,
here we're saying, like, we wouldn't compare a hash of this struct inside the image pool secret. There's the coordinates of the secret, and then there's the hash of the content from it. Maybe it makes sense to call should re-verify inside a loop. I'm not super familiar with how the kubelet does its attempts.
My understanding, like just based on the last implementation, it does loop through the credentials. So from the place that we were doing it, it was each credential one by one.
So if I have a pod and it has an image poll secret, and the image already exists on the node and was pulled in a way that we remember that poll secret is good, I would not want the kubelet to go through a loop and first say, like, should I re-verify anonymously? And then be told, yes, you should re-verify anonymously. And then later get to the iteration of the loop where it's like, all right, should I re-verify with this poll secret? And then it's like, oh no, you don't need to. That poll secret's totally fine. So if the kubelet is looping, it seems like the should verify check, we would want to know all the things that could be done. Like we could try anonymously, we could try with node-wide credentials. We've got 5 poll secrets that we could try.
Right. And the way I checked it, like it originally was, I would go through, we had the hash for the secret that was successful, right? And we would loop through and see if you have that.
Okay, so it's another loop. So it's a first loop.
Yes, it was another loop.
Check anonymous, check node-wide, check poll secret, poll secret, poll secret, poll secret.
Exactly.
And figure out if we should re-verify.
Right.
Okay. And then if we should, then we have to do an actual poll. So then we get into
that was going to be based on the policy.
We'll try each poll secret. Okay.
Right, because you don't have the poll secret, right, that was used successfully. So therefore, and it's present. So if the feature gate is on, sorry, we got to go check.
That's fine. I just want to make sure if the interface only lets us check one thing at a time, then that means we have to call it in a loop. But we should call it in a loop and check all the things we can to see if any of them would be happy allowing this pod before we get to the loop where we actually try pulling with those things. So maybe that's
Right.
worth writing down in a implementation notes kind of thing. Like,
Well, because we're already like doing a 2n check, I wonder if there is a way that we could, you know, reduce the number of function calls and just store as one object and like, you know, construct a image pull credentials object before the kubelet gets into the pull loop, trying to figure out which credential actually works. It's just like, here, image pull like image pull manager, what have you got for me? Can we just skip this pull entirely? And then, because either way we're looping through, but like it would just reduce the number of function calls and sort of the overall complexity, I think.
So we're passing this image pull credentials thing into two functions. One is to say a particular pull succeeded. And when we use it there, we only expect one of these things to be set. Like, was it anonymous? Was it node wide? Was it a single pull secret? Like, we only expect one thing for a particular pull success. When we're asking it, should I re-verify? That's where I'm wondering if it makes sense to just have a single call to that. Like maybe it's a different, I don't know. Maybe it's a different structure that you pass into that to say like, here's all the pull secrets I have. And if it's anonymous or node wide or any of these pull secrets, then I don't need to re-verify. I don't, maybe
which is the current logic. Yeah.
Right, but the interface leads it allows it leads people to call it in a loop and maybe in the wrong loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm thinking now that we're talking about is, wouldn't it be true for everybody to be actually able to do anonymous and node wide? Like, wouldn't all pods
basically?
So when we're recording
an anonymous pulls.
When we're recording pull success, being able to indicate which of those things it was makes total sense.
Yeah.
When we're asking if we should re-verify, it's a little weird. So maybe we just need a different arg for the should re-verify.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could also save on the arg and just have the Kubernetes secret be a list in the image pull credentials, but in the situation of, you know, recording intent to pull, that's only, you save just one object in the Kubernetes secret if that's what it is. But then in the, you know, internal structure where we're holding all of the secrets.
At that point, I think we've got two different things. Like when you're recording a pull, you want exactly one of these three things. And when you're asking, it's weird to ask and make you specify the anonymous bit or the node wide credential bit. I don't know. I feel like we have two different things. So let's make the data structure match the question we're actually asking.
This sort of leads into one of my questions, which was, do we actually need to differentiate between node-wide credentials and anonymous? I don't think so.
For good reason today, but I don't like throwing away information that we might wish we had tomorrow. So I don't know.
What situation can you imagine it would be treated differently in this case?
Yeah,
I guess one is if the node-wide credentials change.
Yeah.
Then the secrets would change. Yeah.
Yeah, and the node-wide credentials might change in the future. I think I left a comment somewhere in the
bi-weekly. I think it's Anish who is trying to think about how we could make how we could derive credentials via the node credential provider by using the service account token.
Maybe just stop instead of calling it plural, just call it node-wide credential. It might make more sense, right? This secret was from a node-wide credential.
And I think if we're anticipating a world where we could change the node-wide credential, we may need to also save that then.
Well, it should still be the credentials itself, right? And I assume, is that what Kubernetes secret is? The credential? Fair?
Kubernetes secret
Well-
is an image pull secret. Node-wide credentials is something on the node that doesn't have any visibility to the pod information at all. So
Right.
if the credential plugin on the node was like, here's how you authenticate to this registry, like there's no pod separation there today. So we would
Right.
never
And-
verify pod A versus pod B, like from a node level credential.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
well, here's
So-
here's my sort of point in saying this. Either I think we treat them the same. We like say, if you've ever pulled as a node-wide credential, that's practically from the node's perspective anonymous. Or if we say that the node-wide credentials may one day change, then we should save the node-wide credentials because we want to know whether they changed. Because if they did change, then we would need to re-verify, theoretically.
I this is a pod centric feature. It's protecting against one pod using an image that was pulled on another pod's authority or credentials. So
would not the sort of state of the node's credentials, like that is like a slice of time for that pod, and then later in the future, you know, a different pod is coming along with a, you know, a different set of node credentials or whatever. Like the, I guess like I'm not necessarily feeling super opinionated that we do need to save them. I'm just saying, like, functionally, if we're like, I don't think we need to save two fields if we're not actually keeping track of what the node-wide credentials are.
Yeah, somehow I thought they could switch on user, Gordon, on the node-wide credentials. No? Okay.
No. The only information the credential plugin gets is the image being pulled. It gets no service account or pod information today.
Okay.
That could change in the future. There's another proposal to try to do some of that, and that would require
Unless it's custom code. Unless it's custom code, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I agree the distinction between anonymous and node-wide is not useful today. I'm weirded out by calling it anonymous when it wasn't actually anonymous.
Me too.
I don't.
Well, I mean, we could call it like node level, you know, or something like that, like node level and pod level secrets, because that's really what we're like differentiating. Like this is a, you know, or like globally allowed or something like that, where like on the node, every pod would be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like use these credentials, either anonymous or node wide. Like
Did I hear
if
you?
we're making a pod centric
Mo?
feature, then it's like, yeah.
I thought I heard Mo. Maybe I made that up.
A little bit earlier where I was like, we were about to have a cap with more fanciness in the credential provider, so let me not make assumptions about what it does this exact moment.
Yes, but this Boolean would be insufficient for anything we would do there. We would have to revisit this Boolean anyway.
Right.
Yeah, because I was literally going, Jordan, by the cred hash, not whether it was a Kubernetes secret or one injected by the key thing, right?
Yeah, I mean the hash gets really difficult for anything dynamic. So if so that's where the dimensional stuff comes from. It's like if you have a node-wide credential plugin that returns a new credential every time it's asked because it's dynamic, then
that's no longer valid for the prior, right?
Well, but it depends, right? Like if it will happily return a valid credential for that registry to any pod anytime it wants it, then there's no reason to re-verify for pod.
You're saying these are always valid creds,
right?
That's
There's
different.
So
yeah.
So that's why we're using the dimension of the secret and the hash of the content. So we get.
It also may indicate that every time it does change, it's only valid for a certain amount of time. It depends on the policy of the provider of the right. Yeah.
Yeah. If we want to call it like node wide access, or I don't know, and anything that could be pulled anonymously or got pulled via a node wide credential, like it's available to all pods on the node independent of the pod. I don't know. I agree, Mo, that we will have to revisit this if we make service account or pod information part of what the credential plugins provide, but we knew we would have to revisit this anyway.
Yeah, and even at that point, like that sounds like it would end up looking like another field, which is like similar to the Kubernetes secret. We would have to save it on a pod level.
It'd be like a
basically.
Kubernetes
So
service.
like
I think we're
ultimately,
talking about slicing it at the service account level. So it would
right.
be
So we
yeah.
either way, you'd have to do that.
I'm okay with collapsing anonymous and node-wide credentials to a single field as long as we don't call it anonymous. Node-wide. I don't know. I'm bad.
I like node wide access, or like node accessible.
Public.
What are we saying? We're saying all pods are allowed to use this image. So maybe something with allow all pods true or something. I don't know. Okay. Let me make a note on that. Where did that go? I cannot find. There it is.
Very interesting. So I guess, Peter, that additional fact that we were going to possibly provide, right, on the status of the image, whether or not the image was pulled with creds or not.
Yeah,
we request would be
opted to not do that, just to like reduce the version skew, like basically make this get in quicker. We reserve the right to do that in the future, I say, but
okay.
Like more information is always welcome, but even knowing if it was pulled with credentials isn't sufficient, because we can have these node-wide credentials.
Right. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
So
all of a sudden, now
still has to do bookkeeping to figure out where did the credentials come from, and are they ones we care about re-verifying for the pod. Yeah. Okay. I like something like allow all pods. What does this field mean? It means we should allow all pods.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe keep going down. We talked about the args to should re-verify, making it so we can do a single call. Oh, I think we need a method on the interface for the garbage collector process to clear out a record.
Yeah,
Probably.
I haven't found that.
Yeah.
So,
and if you have, we didn't talk about like what happens if you already have a pull record and the kubelet for some reason decides to try to pull again. Maybe it's a pull always type of thing, or like, should it record intent to pull if it is going to do a pull of an image which already exists? And I would say yes, probably.
So
yes, they would need to
yeah.
It
it still will record whether or not anonymous was not required, and then later another pod that doesn't have that, right? You still have the same problem, even if you've got pull always because somebody else may not have pull always.
Because if it attempts a pull and that pull succeeds, I would want it to record the
Yes.
success of that and update the pull record with, if it was pulled with a credential, like great, now we know another credential that works. Or if it was
Right.
pulled anonymously and that succeeded, great, now we know anonymous succeeds.
Now it's
And
public.
so if we're going to record success, then we have to record intent, so that those are matched all the time.
Doesn't the intent only
serve for us to know that the image wasn't preloaded now that we don't log credentials along with it?
I think it's easier to just always match calls with intent and success. And so if we're going to call success, which we should, then we should also call intent.
Sorry.
We could
Call it all the time. It just wouldn't have to make an intent record, right? Because that's just the image has been pulled, and it says that.
So here's
but we already know that it wasn't preloaded because we have a record of it.
We have an image. We have a pull record. All right. Something comes in with pull always, and it's like, I intend to pull. If we don't create an intent record and garbage collection runs in the background and cleans up the image and cleans up our pull record, that's the GC loop is what made me start thinking about what do we do when we are going to try to pull images which already exist. I think it's simpler to reason about if we always record intent, try the pull, then say whether it succeeded or failed. Even if we, at the time we were going to do the intent to pull, we did have a pulled record, like otherwise, then all GC has to do is like lock right around the cleanup of the pull record instead of, I think otherwise the GC cleanup has to block if anything is trying to pull, which could be long running operations. And I don't want to.
So there is a parallel pull issue now that I saw you guys had a comment in there already about that, and that does exist. And here's how it works, at least in Container D. If you try to pull, right, the same image twice, once with creds and once without creds, the first one in is going to lock, right, while we're pulling it down. The other one's going to wait for the image to be pulled. Okay, the first one could be anonymous and the second one could be with creds, and the opposite. The first one could be with creds and the second one anonymous. Right? They're both going to succeed.
Oh no.
Oh! So I do think, Peter, we need the additional information.
Oh. Well, but the additional
but that's okay. I think we can put the annotations. We can use some annotation information that you're going to be storing in the right. We can pass that as an annotation, and then when we respond back on the success, we can tell you which annotation was the one that was successful. And then the other one would be, and this one relied on.
Wait, did I just hear that we cannot trust the response from the CRI to mean what I think it means? It basically,
if you're pulling in parallel, no.
If we pull the same image, actually, even if we pull different images that resolve to the same digest.
Oh.
Sorry, I just got off PTO. Sorry, I missed the discussion.
And now you're causing PTSD. Well, so oh, all right.
That doesn't mean we have to do these things in parallel. It's just currently we do allow parallel requests.
Well, it's good to know what behavior what behavior exists today that we have to. So
sorry.
The first one in is authenticated. The second one in is anonymous. The first one succeeds because it had creds. The second one will return success, which So
And based on timing, maybe the first one that gets back.
yeah, I mean, failure.
It's all going to be timing at that point, whether or not your Go thread is receiving.
Failure is non-persistent. If it fails, we're just like, oh, okay, we didn't succeed. So failure is fine. It'll come back in and retry, I guess, eventually, whatever.
Yeah.
Parallel concurrent success is the problem.
Right.
Well, the kubelet knows if it's requesting like the same image from two different sort of like image pull credentials. Either the kubelet could not like deparallelize those intentionally, or it could, if like it could save whatever the sort of the loosest credential was upon requesting. So like if it sees, okay, that like both, I'm pulling both from, you know, node wide and a secret, I'm only going to actually record the node wide because that's actually, or sorry, I'm only going to record the secret. Or no, actually, I think we need to just deparallelize like multiple. Well, but then shoot, because it resolves.
There's image name, and then there's pull by digest as well.
Okay, so
You can literally in the pod, you can say, I want this right?
So there are some things we can do now to do the best we can with what we've got now. Let's make some notes on this, because this, Mike.
Sorry.
I love you, man. Why do you have to just know so many things? Okay. All right. Man. Where's a good spot to leave this comment? Record pull intent. All right. Discussion of parallel pulls of the same image or of different images. Let me share my screen so you're not just listening to me dictate my own typing. That's boring. All right. So parallel pulls of the same image or of different images that resolve to the same underlying digest. At least some CRIs will single light internally on the image being pulled, and the first
the first completes the
initiate
the first success
pull will block other pulls.
And by success, it's connection and then creating the image layers from the manifests, and then there's the deduping occurs
To other later but concurrent pulls. This means an anonymous pull followed by a credentialed pull, which run concurrently, could fail the anonymous pull and report failure to the credentialed pull. This would not cause problems for this feature because both report failure. More concerning is a credentialed pull followed by an anonymous or differently credentialed poll. With credentials A followed by anonymous poll or bad credentials B with good credentials A. The poll would succeed on A, then report success to the anonymous or credential B poll attempt. We don't want to record that anonymous or credentials B are good for image. The mitigations. We could avoid parallel polls of the exact same image spec in kubelet. So that would be a change to the parallel kubelet polling behavior. By default, kubelet, I still think polls everything serially. So only people which opted into parallel polling in the first place would be exposed to this.
Yes. Also a note that doesn't fully mitigate because two different, tags could map to the same digest.
Address the same image spec, but not different images which resolve to the same digest, which is known only at poll time. What else could we do? So anything we do in the kubelet is going to have...
I may not have, maybe it didn't come completely across.
Okay.
It's not as bad as you think here in the way it's not as bad as being kite. If you make a credential pull, a connection attempt does occur, right? And we do check manifests each time. Same on anonymous. We make a connection, and then we check if it's already being pulled. It waits for results.
That's a good point.
The connection and the manifest attempts do occur in both cases. So the authentication or not does occur both times, Jordan.
Okay.
You do get both before we dedupe. We wait and see if you can get the connection and if the manifests are the same, right, as the prior poll or the in progress poll.
Okay, so it's like the rest of the poll. Like, do I have the layers? Go pull the layers, like that.
Right.
Okay. So
it's not that bad, right? It's only only the layers.
So the same protection that we're getting today with pull always, to be like, just ping the registry, like make sure the registry is happy with my credentials.
Because the pull always, we don't know it's pull always or not. We don't know the policy, right? So the way pull always works is you call in to see what the status is of the image.
Okay.
Right. And then based on the status of the image, that's going to be a success or not.
Okay.
Or not.
But the failure case, like if anonymous wasn't good, or the credentials weren't good, or this was a authorization aware registry and your credentials are not actually good for this manifest, you will still get a failure up front.
Yes, on the connection. Yes.
Okay. Then I don't.
We do re-verify every time, whether it's.
And I don't, even if it's in parallel. There's the initial poke.
Right. The deduping does not occur at the image request. It occurs after the connection, and the manifests are the same. And so then we're already pulling this.
Kernels.
If you really want the details, it's the chain ID with all of the value, right? With all of the layers, if that's already there.
Okay. Right? So if that's how Containerd works, I don't think I care that the layer pulls are deduped and run with the credentials of the first one in.
There's right. It's just a timing issue on the success. You still have a problem on the success. Which one was first? But you're not going to know because it's a 20 gig pull. But it's a 20 gig pull. You don't know which
means that this exact pull attempt was accepted by the registry for
Right.
this manifest, at least. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's all I care about.
Okay.
Maybe I should care about more, but that's
It's
all.
it's the deduping part. On the whether it was both anonymous and with creds for some reason.
But that's fine. We handle that on our side. So I tried anonymously. The registry accepted anonymous and returned me the manifest for this image anonymously. Thumbs up. Then it went to go pull layers. It's weird for a registry to be like, "Yep, anonymous is cool. Here's the manifest anonymously," and then you go pull the layers. It's like, like that's weird. I don't know. I'm less concerned about that.
Good. Okay.
Because we're actually not protected against that. Like today, we do pull always. If and all we do is the connection and the manifest check. That's so. Like the protection we have today from pull always is exactly this. So
yeah, okay, we're good. So, yeah. So my fear was probably
I'm gonna delete.
Poorly placed. Yeah.
Okay.
It would have been a weird timing issue.
It,
anonymous failed the first time, but didn't the second time. It would have been weird.
GC can clean up. Let's go back to the GC thing. Can clean up a pulled record in the background means that whenever we are attempting to pull even an already existing image, we should record intent to pull.
And just to verify, when you say image here, you're talking about the full path, registry name, domain, right? / repo, and then image.
Everything in the pod spec, like the full, whatever the kubelet is passing to the CRI to say, please pull this. Yeah.
Okay.
Talking about, I'm not.
It could resolve to the same image digest with two different registries, is all I'm saying here.
Sure.
On one registry, and that's the typical pattern. Where with one registry, it's a public registry, and the other registry, it's a private registry with cat, right? That you're paying for. And one pod could be using the private and the other using the public. And that might be why one's anonymous and one's not.
And that's fine. Like what we care about is the content of the thing. And so if there's two different ways to address the same content and one is available anonymously, then another pod that comes in and points at the private path without credentials and they got lucky and the node happens to already have the image pulled via the anonymous path, like this would allow them to use that content. But they just got lucky.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Peter had to drop, but there were just a couple minutes. Tilde weirds me out. Like some file systems do weird expansions on it, and I don't know, dash or underscore seems nicer, but I don't really care. We said we expected the image ID returned to be just a digest and be file safe, maybe swapping out the colon. But Peter said some return the repo in the digest, so it may not.
And a plus.
File safe.
Yeah, I think he's saying it's not file safe because of the plus, not because the repo path is there.
I mean, the repo can have slashes, right?
Right, so, which may not be safe.
Yeah. So if it's the thing we care about is that what the container runtime returns will just not change from call to call. So as long as they, image A and image B resolve to the same underlying thing, and the same underlying thing gets returned consistently every time, that's all we care about. I think if we might have a repo with slashes and pluses and like who knows what, then we should just hash what comes back and make that the pulled.
Hash it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then stick the string in the record so that we can actually like find the thing, or like what image is this to? Like, I don't know, have fun reversing SHA-256. All right. Other than that, oh, I hadn't made it down to here. We're out of time. We're over time. So if people need to drop, feel free to drop. I actually can stay, so I'm gonna keep chugging on this. But if people need to drop, feel free to drop off.
I can stay.
Okay. Pulled record. Is image ref what we call it in the CRI? I think I can never remember the CRI API. Image ID, image ref. I can't remember.
It's used through the code base, but I'm not
Not sure if it's even in the CRI.
Yeah, whatever we can do to help people understand, like, exactly what does this correspond to. There's just so many ways to refer to images and specs and refs and digests and who knows. So then these are all the things that all the ways we recorded that it was valid. And so if this is true, then it wipes out these. I think we would collapse these two as well into a single. Like we're just not distinguishing between pods if it was pulled anonymously or if it was pulled with node-wide credentials that didn't distinguish between pods on the node.
Node public.
Yeah. And then if we do like a service account slicing in the future, then we would add to this and add to this other one that says like, oh yeah, we pulled with the authority of this service account, probably. And so any pod with that service account, whatever the dimensions are, that makes sense, would have the same access. So for now, it's pull secrets and node-wide public. Image pull secret. The dimension, namespace name UID, and the hash of the most recent content that was successfully used. So the last time we used this secret to do a poll, the actual content of it, we will hash and remember. And so then when we're checking, should I re-verify? Here's the secrets I have. If any of them match the coordinates of a secret that was good in the past, then we don't need to re-verify. Or if any of their content hashes match hashes that were good for this image in the past, we don't need to re-verify.
If it's a different secret, we should
probably make a note of it, right? If it's the same hash but different secret.
So
There's you'll need a list per image.
So that's here. So this is a list of the Kubernetes secrets used to pull successfully.
On the secrets that were available for that one pod, or is this the list of secrets that were used for all pods?
This is the record of what successfully pulled this image.
Okay, so that's so that's a literal list of okay.
These are the coordinates and the hashes of the image pull secrets that were used successfully. And then when we are asking, should we re-verify for a particular pod, I think we would be passing in
that list so we
the
can verify.
list of pull secrets that pod had access to,
Right.
with their hashes, and saying like, here's the locations and the content hashes of what I have. Do I need to go hit the registry again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what the first impulse is doing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So in the case where pod A and namespace A with image pull secret A had some, registry level token that the admin was having to go put in a bunch of secrets in a bunch of namespaces because it was like a shared cluster wide thing, but they had to inject it with a bunch of secrets in a bunch of namespaces. Pod A and namespace A with credential A with token A will pull successfully, will record that, and then every other pod and every other namespace will have their own secret with a different coordinate, but the same hash. They will come in and say, do I need to re-verify? And they'll say, no, you don't need to re-verify because this hash got used already and it was good.
Enough on the namespace and the name, and that is that the registry, and I'm not sure.
This is the Kubernetes. So the image pull secrets are Kubernetes API objects. And so the namespace and the name and the UID are like the unique coordinates of exactly that instance of the secret.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then we also need to match the credential hash against the registry that was being used for the connection. The registry and repo, actually.
So we're matching against the resolved digest. So what we care about is that the pod had what it needed to pull that content, right?
From a particular registry repo, a connection. I'm just saying that's a part of it. The hash needs to be also related to the full path name, if you will, for the image that was being used. If it didn't have a domain, that's fine. That's default registry, right? And thus the CRI implementation will take care of that. But if it had a domain, then you need to have that full path in there. That's why I was asking the question about the image name. I need to make sure that it includes that prefix if that's what's in the pod spec.
So what's in the pod spec, we ask the CRI, do you know about this thing? And it returns the digest. Then we ask what credentials were successful in pulling this content. Do we care what path they were pulled via? Like if I've got credentials that were used with one registry to pull these layers and another pod has those same credentials, does it matter? And the image spec it's pointing at resolves to the same underlying manifest and layers? Do we care that?
Well, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Maybe I'm being pedantic, but a credential for Docker doesn't match, right, a credential for Quay. Even if you have that, it's still not going to work if you're pointing to Quay. You don't really have access.
So the fact
you may have a credential for
the fact
Docker,
that image spec A and image spec B resolve to the same underlying content.
Yeah, are we saying that's okay? I guess maybe. I don't know. In my head, it doesn't really add up, but
the fact that they resolve to the same underlying content is information you wouldn't have.
Yeah.
How does the container runtime know that that same underlying content is identified by both of those things? I thought when it pulled the image, like does that mean it pulled at least once via both of those mechanisms and then associated those image pull specs with the content it has locally? Like when it does the pull, is that when it sort of labels or tags or whatever it's called?
We separate the prefix, right, out and check to see if the image is local, right?
Okay.
You know, we're not keeping a record of which registry it came from.
Okay.
We use that registry information to make the connection on a pull request, not.
So when we ask the CRI, do you have this image? Unless it pulls that image from that registry, it will say like, no, I don't have that. And then later, if we actually go pull it, it would then connect, then get the manifest, and then maybe realize, oh yeah, actually I do have all those layers. So it would require a pull attempt via that.
If you wanted to dedupe for this purpose, 2 different registries requiring 2 different creds, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So the credentials. So this pull.
When I made the hash, I made it for the full image name, not right.
The credential hash includes. I can't remember. So when we're keeping track of what we. Where's the API type? The pulled record. Okay. So this is the sort of canonical digest or repl plus digest, like the canonical single.
That'll be the same across all registries for that image, yes.
But for these things, should this be a map of a particular image spec to credentials used to pull that particular image spec? Or at least at the registry level? Like maybe stripping off like digest and tag, but like repo plus image to
I think otherwise you're making an assumption that this pull would succeed because they've got the same image name and the same cred, even though it's a different registry that they actually want to pull. It just sounds like a little bit of a weird bug.
Mixing credentials across registries because they happen to resolve to the same content is
right. That's a little weird. It's very doable. It's a weirdness I didn't want to resolve. I just, okay, fine. I'll throw the whole image in. I didn't. And I created the hash. So therefore I presume the hash would not match if it was for a different registry. If the actual full and it could be even 2 different repos, Jordan, within the same registry.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like the full
one could be private.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't really know. You know, we've got these controllers.
If we're trying to not leak information,
right?
The fact that there's a private registry with an image that happens to be like a privately tagged version of a publicly available image, like letting some other pod land anonymously and point to that same privately tagged image and be like, oh yeah, I totally ran. Like, well, now I know that private thing exists and is this content.
Bingo. These are the kinds of things I was worried about. This is why I was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that presumes a bad actor almost, Jordan. But
yeah.
and the root, and we're at root anyway, so you know.
So I think this is a tweak to what we have. So in the pulled record, we still go to the digest, the canonical thing. We still have a single file for all of that stuff, so it gets cleaned up with garbage collection. Inside it, we keep track of the credentials that were good. We segment them by the image that was actually being pulled, the image in the pod spec.
Right.
Okay.
Full path or whatever is specified in the pod. So if I do it without a registry, you know, anonymously, that's obviously going to Dr. Public by default, right? Maybe, or Quay, depending on, you know, cryo or not. And then
I think we should drop the tag and the digest from the image spec for purposes of like tracking which credentials were good. I think registry repo image is sufficient. I don't yeah.
which could be digest too. Yeah, which
Registry repo.
you can go registry repo digest, right, and pull that image. You can pull by digest.
Okay. But so
Just
like
an odd case, but
I mean,
it does.
dropping the tag, dropping the digest, and like whatever's left.
Yeah.
That's how we segment the credentials we keep track of.
Or an image in the traditional definition, right?
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if you want to actually cover the pull by digest thing in here in your set of examples.
So I think that looks like a map of image spec without tag digest to credentials valid for that spec. This ensures that an anonymous pod can't reference a private registry or repo that happens to have a tag public image in it and discover that exists and what content it is.
No mixing across registry repo tags.
Yeah. Okay. So when in our Go interface, record image pulled. So we need a way to okay. We need to be super clear about what the args are to these things. Also, does Kubelet do any kind of normalization? I don't think it does. I think it takes verbatim what's in the pod spec. And
yes, it could be by digest or one repo or just the image. Yeah. Which is also if we're on Sig-Auth right now, I'd like to talk about that. Passing the same creds to all repos in a pod.
It only does registry partitioning.
Well, yeah. If I've got 3 repos in one pod, I've got one set of secrets.
The secrets have a path. You can. I thought in the secret you could scope it to a sub repo in a registry.
Are they? If I didn't see that in the code I was reviewing. It may be there now, but it wasn't when I originally wrote it. I would have noticed. I saw no filtering. It literally went through the loop on every image. It went through the entire loop of secret with no filtering. In other words, it went to an ensure API, Jordan, and then in the ensure API, it ensured all images for the pod with one set of secrets. Starting from anonymous, going through each secret, going to every registry, right? If each had a different registry repo, it went to all of them each time.
I thought the keyring did like registry filtering. It's been like 10 years since
keyring might,
because all the image pool secrets get put into a keyring, and then the keyring I thought did filtering.
Yeah, I saw.
Maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not seeing. Well, I mean, when it gets to keyring, I didn't see that in the code.
Okay.
I don't remember it passing the information that would allow it to do filtering for this one particular image. It seemed more like let's create the whole set of keys.
When we record success, I think we have to pass in the same image string that we passed in to record intent, so that it can do its ref counting and clean up correctly
and match up on the hash.
So I think we have to pass in the same arg we pass to record, so ref counting can get cleaned up properly. We also need the image ref, image ID, just canonical, whatever.
Right.
Return from CRI. And so by passing both of those things in, and so the image pool record can partition the credentials by the image that is being pulled. Yeah, so for both of those reasons, we have to pass in the original image spec.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense?
It does. It does.
The original image spec, will it always contain like the registry or not? Like you can request something like engines/engines, right?
Correct. You can just ask for
verbatim. It's exactly what was in the pod.
Right. It's a string that resolves, right, by the container runtime integration, right? But yeah, it could be in Nginx. It could be in Nginx latest. It could be registry, and then in Nginx, which will be public anonymous request, and then it could be a repo.
So I think this looks like
and it could be an actual, not a config digest, but an actual image digest pulled by, right?
But you would,
which is rarely done, but I've seen it. I've seen pods.
You would at least have the registry there, and recording the credentials at the registry level at that point. I'm fine with. Like saying these credentials for this digest for this registry, like that's as granular as I would care about being.
Okay.
Okay. Because if you're
just an FYI to fill you up a little bit more, the ref that containerd returns is the config digest, not the image digest. I don't want to freak you out. It really is an ID. It's not the image.
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to.
It resolves to a image ref.
That's why I'm trying to use as many, like use the verbatim was it image manager, puller, whatever it is that we do the pull.
Yeah. Full image secrets. There they are.
Image, result, image ref, like whatever it's called in the result.
Yeah.
Image. We call it image ref.
Yeah.
What is
It's called ID in other places, I think in the Cry API.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
Yeah. Pull image
response.
Oh, it's just a string. Okay.
Yeah.
we can call it whatever we want.
That was changed. Which version are we looking at?
Okay. In the API, it's called image ref.
Okay. There was a proposal to change it. I'm sorry, too. Yeah.
I'm just going to call it image ref because that's what CRI calls it in the thing. And we'll document the heck out of it.
Yeah, there was a bit of a whoops there. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to make sure that Stana didn't accidentally get any code that assumed that I pull by digest was going to match that reference. It's not going to match that reference.
No, we're treating it as opaque. We're just like
yeah.
whatever the CRI returns.
An opaque string. We give it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, don't compare.
Yep. I don't even know what to call it. It's not an image. It's the canonical pulled resolved ID.
ID. Yeah.
Great.
You got it. That's perfect, actually.
All right.
Although examples would probably help, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Problem with these examples is people think they're normative. It's like, oh,
I know.
Yeah. Whatever. It will always be that. Like, nope.
And CryDocker-D, you'll probably have something else. Yeah.
Okay. I think we made it through like the full interface and what that bubbles down into. And we talked about the GC loop and the implication there. The parallel thing freaked me out for a bit, but I think we're actually
my bad.
okay. That's fine. It's fine. I'm happy that we're partitioning this by like registry, repo, image, like all of the non-tag digest bits, so that we don't expose stuff pulled via private registries or private repos.
I think that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. I hadn't thought through that, so that's good.
By a bad actor. That was the one I was most worried about.
Yeah, you would have to be like going and fishing for stuff, like, but whatever. Like, just do the bookkeeping right. I like still having it all under a single file, so that when we GC that image, we just forget all the things about it, no matter how they were pulled and how they got there. Like the image is gone, all the bookkeeping for it should be gone. And then, we didn't talk about should re-verify. Should re-verify This is the same thing as the pod spec, and that means when we do the lookup for should re-verify,
you don't have the reference at that point.
Point, right? So
we take the image, we will ask CRI to resolve it to the reference, we'll look up the pulled record, then we will drop the tag and digest off of the image and look up what credentials were good for this image.
Makes sense.
Yep. So we do have the information we need.
And this is the pull always policy. Is that?
No. When we're asking for a given pod, like this pod has this image and these credentials, should we re-verify them? Not pull always. Pull always pulls.
Always reverify. So the answer is yes in that case.
Yeah, we don't even call this for. This is
okay.
Pull if not present or never.
Oh, okay, so this is evaluating.
Like we use the image.
Ensuring.
We went to the CRI. We said, "Oh, the image already exists. Should we re-verify it?" If we've already asked CRI.
Yeah. No, I remember this API. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
If we have already asked the CRI and we've already resolved this image to a particular image ref, should we pass that in so that this implementation doesn't have to immediately call the CRI again and look up the image ref again? I think we should.
Yeah, I remember it now. Yeah, this was the okay. Does this pod have the right creds, whether or not the current image was pulled, with creds only, not anonymous, right? That's this API. And not, so on 322, it should say, and not anonymous, right?
3 what?
Line 322 is and not anonymous.
It checks the internal cache to see if there's a record pulling the presented credentials.
Yeah, it's either when not anonymous or right.
Allowing
all public. Yeah. Yeah, I like that public Boolean you had. I didn't realize that those were node keys. You were seeing those as I had no clue. Sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry for running over. I think this was great. I think we actually have the end-to-end story now. One more round of updates.
One more round of reviews. Okay.
This shouldn't be too bad anymore. I like it.
Thanks for all the work.
Cheers, everybody.